The evening light spilled across the downtown sidewalk, turning car roofs gold. Jamal Pierce was halfway through his coffee when the police cruiser rolled up to the curb. He had noticed the pattern months ago, how the same slow glance followed him whenever he wore a hoodie instead of a blazer, how a walk home from the gym somehow looked like a crime in progress. He tried not to think about it, but the door of the cruiser popped open and the officer's voice made him stop. "Hey, hold up a second." Jamal turned, the cardboard cup still in his hand. The officer was tall, square-jawed, his belt heavy with gear. His name tag read, R. Keller. "Something wrong, officer?" Keller's eyes flicked from Jamal's face to the small leather case clipped to his belt. "You look familiar. Mind telling me what you're doing around here?" Jamal blinked. "Drinking coffee? Heading home? That your car over there?" "Nope." "Step over here for me." Pedestrians slowed. A couple at a bus stop traded uneasy looks. The air carried that sharp, metallic edge people recognize, the soundless question of whether this was about to become something ugly. Jamal set his cup on the bench and held his hands visible. "I'm not sure what this is about, but I'll cooperate." Keller's hand hovered near his radio. "Let's just make this easy, all right? ID." Jamal reached into his inside pocket slowly, the way training had taught him, because yes, he was trained for moments like this. The wallet slipped, bounced once on the concrete, and flipped open. A small gold badge caught the light. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the murmurs started. "Wait, did that say FBI?" someone whispered. Keller's eyes widened. He stooped, picked up the wallet, and froze as the letters became unmistakable. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Jamal straightened his jacket, his voice leveled but cold. "You were saying, Officer Keller?" The crowd stirred, phones quietly angling up. Keller's shoulders sagged, his face drained of color. "Sir, I didn't realize." "That much is clear. Now, maybe you'd like to tell all these people what I did wrong." The street fell silent except for the hiss of bus brakes. Keller's lips moved, but nothing came out. Jamal stepped closer, his tone even. "You profiled a federal agent on his way home because he didn't fit your picture of who belongs here. I suggest you call your supervisor before this goes any further." Keller fumbled for his radio. Around them, the crowd's quiet disbelief shifted to low applause, an uneasy, spontaneous sound of relief that the balance had flipped. When the second cruiser arrived, Jamal was already on the phone, his badge displayed plainly. The new sergeant's expression told the rest of the story. Whatever came next would happen in an office, not on this sidewalk. As Jamal walked away, the applause followed him down the block. Short, stunned, but real. The fluorescent lights inside the precinct hummed like a swarm of bees. Officer Keller sat at the end of the narrow conference table, his uniform rumpled, his hands locked together so tightly that the knuckles had gone white. Across from him sat Jamal Pierce, calm, steady, unreadable. A paper cup of coffee cooled in front of him. The badge on his belt gleamed under the buzzing light, a silent reminder of who really held authority now. Captain Morales entered, closing the door behind her. She was compact, gray-haired, and known for her intolerance of excuses. "Agent Pierce," she said with a nod. "Thank you for coming down voluntarily." "No problem," Jamal replied. His tone was courteous, but every syllable landed with precision. "I thought it would be useful to clarify the facts before the videos start multiplying." Morales sighed. "Too late for that. My phone's been pinging since you left the scene. We're already trending." A flicker of discomfort crossed Keller's face. He tried to speak, but Morales raised a hand. "Not yet." She turned to Jamal. "From what I've reviewed, you were walking home drinking coffee when Officer Keller initiated contact. You complied. There was no probable cause, correct?" "Correct. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't resist. I was simply questioned for existing." Morales nodded grimly and faced Keller. "Would you like to explain that?" Keller swallowed. "He matched a description from a call earlier." Jamal leaned forward, cutting him off quietly. A call that, according to dispatch logs, came in after you stopped me. Morales flipped through a folder, her pen tapping. Confirmed. Timestamp proves it. Try again. Keller's shoulders slumped. I made a mistake. No, Morales said, her voice sharp. You made an assumption. There's a difference. Silence thickened. The sound of distant phones ringing in other offices filled the space. Jamal studied Keller for a long moment, then said softly, I'm not interested in ruining your life, officer. I'm interested in changing your pattern. How many others didn't have a badge to save them from your mistake? Keller's eyes dropped to the table. His mouth opened, then closed again. Morales set her pen down. Agent Pierce, I can assure you there'll be a full internal review. This department can't afford to ignore what happened. I appreciate that, Jamal said, standing. I also expect transparency, because the public will. He slid a business card across the table, his bureau contact information, then offered his hand. Morales shook it firmly. Keller hesitated, then reached out as well. Jamal's handshake was professional, brief, and final. As Jamal left the precinct, the cool night air hit him like clarity. The street outside was lined with reporters, cameras flashing. He didn't stop. He simply held up his badge for one clear photo, then kept walking. Behind him, Keller watched through the glass doors, realizing what had just happened. The man he'd treated like a suspect had become the voice that would rewrite his department's policies. The morning sun flashed against the mirrored glass of City Hall, catching the lenses of cameras already crowding the steps. Reporters clustered near the entrance, microphones ready. On every screen in the city, the same headline scrolled across the bottom. FBI agent detained without cause. Department faces scrutiny. Jamal Pierce took a slow breath as he stepped out of the black Bureau sedan. His tie was straight, his jaw set, his eyes unreadable behind dark lenses. Captain Morales waited for him at the top of the steps, her clipboard tucked under one arm. She looked exhausted but resolute. Half the country's watching, she said quietly. Jamal gave a thin smile. Then we'd better give them something worth seeing. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. The hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant and nerves. The conference room ahead was full, local officials, bureau reps, and uniformed officers, all trying to look composed. At the far end sat Police Chief Delgado, a man built from equal parts caution and command. He stood as Jamal entered. Agent Pierce, he said, extending a hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Jamal took it. I'm not here for a handshake, Chief. I'm here for accountability. Delgado hesitated, then gestured to the seat opposite. Cameras outside the glass walls caught flashes of movement, press waiting for the statement. Captain Morales slid a folder across the table. All recordings from that night. Multiple angles, multiple witnesses. The narrative is clear. Delgado opened the folder, the light from the screens reflecting off the footage. On silent playback, Keller's face appeared. His stance, the gesture, the wallet hitting the ground. Delgado watched the moment when the badge came into frame, and his jaw tightened. He closed the folder. It's indefensible. No, it's habitual, Jamal said. The room went still. He continued, calm but sharp. This isn't about one officer having a bad day. It's about the pattern you ignore until someone like me has proof. Morales nodded slowly, eyes flicking toward Delgado. The chief exhaled, rubbing his temple. What do you want, Agent Pierce? Not revenge, reform, public apology, mandatory training that actually sticks, and transparency. The people out there deserve to know what's changing, not just what you regret. Delgado looked up, meeting his gaze. You'll have your apology. And Keller? The pause was long, heavy. Suspended pending investigation. He'll take the training. If he fails, he's done. Jamal nodded once. Fair. A knock at the door interrupted. A staffer poked her head in. Chief, the press is ready. Delgado straightened his jacket. Let's end this properly. Outside, the crowd had doubled. Camera flashes stuttered like lightning as Delgado stepped up to the podium. His voice carried through the static of microphones. Last night, one of our officers acted outside of procedure, detaining a citizen and federal agent without cause. We accept full responsibility. Murmurs swept through the crowd. He stepped back. Agent Pierce. Jamal moved to the podium. For a moment, all sound dropped away. He could see faces, reporters, onlookers, even children perched on their parents' shoulders. His voice was steady, clear. This isn't about a badge. It's about what happens when power forgets to look in the mirror. If I didn't have that badge, this story might have ended differently. That should scare all of us. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. I don't want another headline. I want change that outlives the outrage, and I want every officer in this city to know the uniform is supposed to protect, not provoke. Someone began clapping, slow, deliberate. Then another joined. Within seconds, the sound swelled, echoing across the plaza. Jamal stepped back from the podium, the wind catching the edge of his jacket. Morales met his gaze and nodded once. Delgado extended a hand again, not for a photo, but in quiet acknowledgement. Jamal took it. This time, it meant something. Rain had rolled in by evening, turning the city's glass towers into mirrored streaks of silver. The applause from the press conference had long since faded, but the clip was everywhere now. Headlines, podcasts, late-night talk shows. Jamal Pierce had become an unwilling symbol of restraint and justice in the same breath. He didn't feel like a symbol. He felt tired. The bureau car dropped him outside a narrow diner that stayed open late. The bell above the door chimed. The smell of coffee and fried onions wrapped around him. Captain Morales was already in a corner booth, her sleeves rolled up, 2 mugs steaming between them. "You've been on every channel," she said when he sat. Jamal smiled faintly. "Fame's overrated. They're calling it the badge moment. Public Affairs wants to know if you'll do a morning show interview." He shook his head. "I didn't do it for airtime. I just didn't want to stay quiet." Morales nodded slowly. "Silence is what keeps the same mistakes on repeat." They talked logistics, follow-up hearings, policy drafts, new training initiatives. But mostly, they just sat, the rain tapping against the windows like a soft metronome of exhaustion. When Jamal finally left, the streets shimmered under puddled neon. A familiar voice called from behind him. "Agent Pierce!" He turned. Keller stood there, out of uniform now, rain darkening his jacket. The man looked smaller than before, shoulders slouched, eyes ringed with fatigue. "I owe you something," Keller said. "You already gave it. Proof." "No." Keller stepped closer, the rain running down his temples. "I acted on instinct, bad instinct. The kind you don't admit lives in you until it ruins something." His voice broke slightly. "You didn't humiliate me. You exposed what I needed to see." For a long moment, Jamal said nothing. The rain filled the space between them. Finally, he nodded. "Then learn from it. Make sure the next man doesn't need a badge to be believed." Keller nodded one more time, grateful, ashamed, relieved, all at once, and walked away into the drizzle. A week later, Jamal stood in a small community gym where the department had set up its first joint training with the Bureau. Recruits in gray sweats formed a circle while he spoke from the center. No notes, no podium. "You'll be trusted with authority," he said. "That trust isn't armor, it's weight. If you use it without empathy, it'll crush someone, and then it'll crush you." Heads nodded, some scribbled notes. The room was silent except for the soft squeak of sneakers on the polished floor. When the session ended, Morales caught his eye from the doorway. Feels different, doesn't it? Yeah, he said. This time it feels like progress. She smiled. Not bad for a guy who just wanted to drink his coffee in peace. He laughed quietly. Still haven't finished that cup. That night, back in his apartment, Jamal placed his badge on the table beside the cooling mug he'd carried home from the diner. He watched the city lights flicker through the window, each reflection a reminder that even one small act of control, handled right, could ripple outward. The rain started again, soft, steady, unending. He closed his eyes, breathed once, and let it all go.